Hello.
Hello.
How are you? What a delight.
How are you?
Good. Happy Easter Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are you right now?
I'm actually in the desert. I came to be with my parents when this all started, and then they decided it'd be best to go back to Canada because that's where they're from and that's where their healthcare is and stuff. So then they left, and I stayed here with my dog.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if everyone is just tuning in, I'm hanging out with Adam of Triarchy today, an amazing denim brand.
Thank you.
So great to see your face and be able to hang out kind of in real life.
You too.
The closest we can get right now, I guess.
Where are you? Are you in San Diego?
I'm in San
Nice.
Diego. Yeah.
How
So
is it? How you been?
I mean, we're fortunate and privileged. We're at our house and spending a lot of time here, pretty much all of
Yeah.
our time, and hanging out with the new baby. So,
What's it like? That's like with a little baby, it's like it must be a little extra challenging or like not challenging, but like just not knowing what to do, I guess, because you can't go anywhere.
yeah, it's kind of like a little bit extra nerve-wracking, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like I get extra extreme about when Drew goes to the grocery store. I'm like, okay, so everything needs to be like out of the
Yeah.
house for a little while before we
Right.
bring it in. And I've read like conflicting articles about that if it's
So did
necessary.
I. Yeah.
But
And
I'm like, do it because who knows?
you may as well just do it. That's the thing. Like when I had a package delivered on Friday, I just left it there until yesterday.
Hmm.
Because why not? You know?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Why not? That's kind of
Why
the
not?
thing. But I mean, at the same time, she is so entertaining right now. Like she's
Hmm.
in extreme development mode, so she's like a little over 4 months. So she's learning so much so fast, and she laughs now, and she smiles a
Cool.
bunch, and she's like rolling on both directions and like trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to crawl. So she's highly entertaining.
I noticed like when my brother and my sister, when they both had their kids, the first like 7 or 8 months, I was like, I don't know, this is like blob of human. I can't do anything with this. But then when they start to be able to do things, then I can interact because I'm not afraid of snapping them in half, you know?
I know. I mean, it's wild when they're first born. I was afraid at first too. Like they handed her to me, and I'm like, "Are you sure about that? Like,
Yeah, I don't
is
know.
this safe?"
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, she brings a lot of joy, so I'm grateful for that and the
good.
time with her right now.
That's how I feel about my dog. I know it's not the same as a baby, but I'm very grateful to have my dog here with me. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
dogs are part of family. I get
yeah,
it. We have
big
dogs.
time, big time.
Big time. Well, I guess before we dive into all things denim and triarchy,
Yes.
I'm curious how this whole pandemic is affecting you and your business because I think that's what I've been talking to a lot of people about because it's like, how do you not talk about it right now?
Yeah, and you know, it's really I'm really enjoying speaking to you today because I had this feeling yesterday. My mom sent me this quote from Winston Churchill during World War II. It was a speech he gave where he was telling Britons that, you know, we've reached the end of the beginning. And that really kind of struck a chord with me because I kind of feel
Mhm.
that way with this. I kind of feel like we're at the end of the beginning. That whole tumultuous month that just happened of just like trying to make sense and what's going on. And like, you know, I feel like things just make a bit more sense now. Like we have information, we know what's happening, we know what to do, we know what not to do. Like things have become clearer.
Mhm.
Um, so in that, I feel more sane because the first few weeks were just like a little bit much.
Mhm.
And then of like trying to figure out, you know, we had just like accepted a bunch of orders and then we had put stuff into production and then the factory has to shut down. So it's like, well, does that mean we cancel all of our orders because that was a really good season for us? And then it was like, well, when you reach out to all the accounts, they're like, when can you deliver? You know? And
Mhm.
we saw that a lot and it was lovely to just have people be like, let's work and see like maybe we're gonna just push this into fall instead of spring, which is fair enough. And, you know, we're in a lucky position where we can pivot like that because we're not a juggernaut. And so to be able to just like it took a lot of work and like spreadsheets, which are really not my thing, but I had to like deep dive into like spreadsheets and calendars and like when's going where to what to who, and then like get it all. We basically took what would have been spring, summer deliveries and fall, winter, and we amalgamated everything into one production run that will happen whenever the factory reopens, and then that will be a fall delivery. So ultimately, we just kind of like skipped spring and kept everything we have now as core for spring
Mm.
during this time.
Yeah, and because you're making timeless pieces, you can make that work.
We're lucky because in denim, you know, it's that. You know, there's a lot of awesome developments in the sustainability and things like that, but for the most part, yes, you're absolutely right. Like I can take it and hold on to it and use it because it's
Hmm.
not gonna be, you know,
It's not going out of style.
it's not going out of style.
Yeah,
It's good.
yeah, that's smart. So with your factory then, they're closed right now.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Well, they're actually making masks for the factory it's in Istanbul, and they shut down the week before last, and they started making masks for the government. So now they're at like full capacity doing masks.
Mm.
In a very different environment. Like if you look at their stories, it's all like the work tables have all been separated and like temperatures are checked daily, and it's really well done. But yeah, no, they won't be back online to do denim at least until May,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So
So, okay, so your brand, Triarchy, like it's a denim brand. I feel like, are you thinking about what your brand is differently right now? Like, are you thinking, okay, this is
big
what Triarchy was, this is what
big
Triarchy is
time.
becoming?
Well, you know what? I mean, the way that I actually feel is like this is what Triarchy was, and look how much more relevant it is now.
Mm.
Instead of like what we're becoming, it's like, okay, like y'all looking at this kind of thing in a loving way. But it's like I sat in on a few, you know, when this was all starting, and there were a bunch of webinars and panels and things, and you're just getting all this information. And then I kind of stopped watching them because I'm like, you're basically giving everyone the advice to turn their company into what mine is like. So like, cool, keep doing that, but I don't need to listen to this.
Mm.
And then it basically, you know, like what we had been doing, like we have a really tight and focused sustainability lens, but it's been difficult to create within that lens because there are limited resources. But what's nice in recent years is like mills and suppliers are creating so much to supply companies like ours that I have more to work with now. So it's really exciting when I can go and look at like colors, because I can't usually do that because dyeing often isn't sustainable and it just becomes a problem for us. But now we have all of these beautiful like natural pigments from things that are similar to indigo. So I can build stories that are like what I've been musing lately is like during this experience, we've all kind of been put into our respective villages, kind of like it would have been like 500 or 1,000 years ago when everyone just lived in villages and maybe went to like the nearby town to get something. That's kind of what we're all doing right now. So it just made me think about it, like if I was to apply, like separate Triarchy into these little ecosystems of like the indigo ecosystem and the cotton ecosystem, and then like what can come into that and be complementary, and
Mm.
like what can be part of that ecosystem naturally as it would be in nature, otherwise not going to do it. So that's kind of what I've been doing with this
Hmm.
slowed viewpoint that we're in right now, you know.
Hmm. And I feel like you're always one of those designers and creative people that's really good at slowing down. I mean, like when I've talked to you at other stages with the company, at one point you were like going off Instagram, you know, for segments of time to be like, I need to
That's
take a break.
right. That was the last time. So yeah, I mean, since that time, I have been so that's the whole thing. It takes 90 days to break a habit, right? And I started with Instagram when I spoke to you over the summer. I'm like, no Instagram for 3 months. So June, July, and August, gone. And then I noticed that, like, oh wow, my relationship with this platform is so much healthier when I re-engage with it when I've done that. So then from that point, I started to apply it to a lot of things in my life, like my relationship with shopping, like my relationship, like just like what can you apply that rule to? And I really, and this is so starting in January, I was like, I'm gonna start 2020, like no dating, no nothing. I just want 3 months of like clarity, like no casual anything, just like I wanna start 2020 with this foundation that I can build from. So I'm like, so come April, I'll maybe go on a date or like whatever. And I'm like, oh, I see.
Never
Great.
mind.
So I guess this theme is going to carry on throughout 2020, um, but I did say that like what's awesome about the time that we're in now, like we're kind of in this forced period of a potential 90-day reflection time. So it's like, what do you want to get rid of? Because it's a pretty stellar time to apply something like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. But I think challenging sometimes because like the stress is heightened. So I
Yeah,
think we like more naturally go to like our vices right now.
I know. I know. I started doing breath work to try to something because I'd never done that before, and people are always like breath work, breath work, breath work. So I started doing that, and it's a real game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do yoga, but again, with the baby, it becomes really challenging.
I honestly think about people like yourself who are doing this with children, and like hats off to you because like it's me and my dog. We have a pretty easy time dealing with this, you
Hmm.
know, like so it's very impressive to be.
I mean, I feel like we're in a fortunate place because she's really young, whereas like people that have kids that
Yeah,
they have to be educating them as well right now, or
right.
kind of like running their
That's
schooling. It's a
that's a
whole
lot.
other level.
It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know listeners are going to want to know more about the denim that
Mm.
you make. So, I guess if you think about circularity, I know that's something that you're always kind of exploring and implementing. So, what would you say are kind of like some of the ways that you're bringing circularity into Triarchy's denim?
So we really started to see how the conversation of sustainability was pivoting from like sustainable practices and like you know what's good about this fabric and these washes to circularity. Like circularity has really become like you have to consider the end of life because it doesn't really matter if you do everything sustainable but then there's an end of life issue. Then the whole thing, in my opinion, is it's just a wash because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really achieve that final goal of like, you know, when this is done, it's not going to be a burden. And so it's always helpful to look at things that you're consuming and thinking like, will this be around longer than me? So like when I die and decompose and am dust of this beautiful earth, will this thing I'm consuming also be gone, or will it still be here? And if it will still be here, like you have to have that conversation, which is difficult to get people to do on a consumer level because everything's on impulse. But so as a creator, in those you know moments of creation, I can stop and go like, what's the deal here? And
Mm-hmm.
so we really have taken end of life into account with everything like and so now what Triarchy is so awesome is everything we make is biodegradable. So like every product that you would buy from our brand, like if you took the buttons off, like we don't use rivets anymore because rivets make it very difficult to repurpose denim. With a button, you can remove it and then you just have the fabric to contend with, but the rivets really cause issues. So as much as they're like a heritage part of denim that I love, circularity outweighs the importance of heritage. So we've removed them. And so now, yeah, basically, if you took the buttons off and put them in the compost, they would decompose. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was always that was great, but it removed our ability to have stretch denim, which sucks because everyone loves stretch denim, right? Until
Mm-hmm.
this year, where we're bringing to market that the first biodegradable stretch denim, which is just organic cotton with natural rubber. And that would have been arriving into our online store this month, but the factory is closed. So we patiently wait and we should have it by June. And so then we will also be able to reintroduce stretch, and that will also be biodegradable, which is awesome because a pair of, you know, polyester, even if the poly is derived from recycled water bottles, which is awesome because we're repurposing plastic that exists, you're still kind of just making new garbage with old garbage.
Hmm.
So, and there are ways in which you can, if the percentage is correct, you can separate the fibers and you can repurpose the lot of it. But we just decided like we would prefer to just be biodegradable. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. So with this new stretch denim, is this something that like several brands are getting access to as of recently?
I know that when Candiani first developed it, they gave it to a few of us,
Hmm.
which I was very honored that they gave it to us to be one of the first. And then it will roll out. It's not like we're like it's ours, like no one can use it.
Right.
No, no, no. Like we were honored to be one of the first, but like hopefully this will just take over and become the new normal. And of course, the problem is too in the sustainability world is a lot of the times you hear something and then you get it and it's like, "Ugh, this doesn't really work. Like it's
Right.
just, maybe it feels right, but the optics, and I'm really strict about the optics of denim because insofar as like, you know, the importance of circularity will outweigh the heritage of like a rivet. If a denim doesn't look and feel like denim, I don't use it. Like I can't use it if it feels kind of like digitally made or something like that. But this biodegradable stretch is like, it's amazing. I've
Does
been
it
wearing
seem
it.
different than like what you'd be used to with a
No,
stretch?
absolutely not. I've been
That's
wearing, well,
amazing.
I was wearing it until the house arrest thing, and I haven't put a pair of jeans on in a while, which is bad, but you know, what are you gonna do?
I mean, yeah, sweatsuits I feel like are happening right now.
They're happening in a big way. Yeah, it's true.
I'm making myself get dressed for these lives because it makes me feel like better about myself.
Me too. I put a t-shirt on.
I walked out of the bedroom and I have this like long dress on.
That's
And I'm
nice though.
to my husband, I'm like, is this too much or just fun? He's like, it's fun.
I mean, let's be honest. I've been wearing a caftan most days, and I'm really getting into the whole like. I mean, this is where you want to be. You want to be in a caftan. Like it's just it's wonderful. It's breezy and lovely. It's yeah. I think we should all just well, no, we should. You know, we need denim, but you know, maybe I'll make a denim caftan. That's
Oh,
not a bad idea.
interesting.
Oh, not a bad idea.
I can imagine that.
BioStretch denim caftan coming up. All right,
Okay, I'm gonna be ready for that.
deal.
Um, well, okay, so another thing that I kind of had thrown this your way as an idea to talk about is this idea of scalability. And I
Yeah.
know I've also talked to you about this in the past because you're always, like walking this fine line of how are we growing, in what ways, like, is it sustainable? Is this the best way to grow? So I guess I'm curious with us being amidst the pandemic and going through this, and I think a lot of businesses kind of reframing their approach, a lot of people reframing like their approach. What do you think scalability will look like on the other side? Do you think, I guess it will take on a bit of a different meaning, or will like the idea of scalability be envied a little bit less? Like people won't be striving for the same kinds of things, but they may be striving for something different.
You know where I go to when you ask me that is we've all seen the stories in recent weeks of, you know, the big companies that exist that are not accepting the orders that were already made, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so you have these huge factories that have, and the way that it usually works, if people don't know, is, for example, if I'm gonna order 1,000 pairs of jeans, then I tell them like what I want, and the factory will order the fabric directly from the mill because they have that relationship, and the mill will invoice the factory, and the factory will receive the goods, make our product, and then they will invoice me for the total, including the fabric. Meaning, until I pay for my product, the fabric was bought by the factory, right? And so what
Hmm.
these huge brands are doing is just saying like, oh, we can't take this because coronavirus. And so the factory then is not only on the line to pay the employees for the work they did making the garments, they also have to pay the mill for the fabrics that they ordered via the company. So where I'm going is like, sustainability is so much more than just the environmental practices of how you make the clothing. It's also, is the ecosystem of the way you're doing it at all sustainable? And clearly it's not, because look
Hmm.
at who you're putting out. You're putting out workers, you're putting out factory owners, you're putting out mills, you're literally destroying your supply chain
Hmm.
because the thing you have built is not sustainable. And I haven't even begun to talk about if the practices in which you are making the garments are sustainable. I don't even give a shit about that at this point,
Hmm.
because everything else is a joke.
Hmm.
And so when you talk about scalability, it's like, when you, if if you, what I would hope to see is that if people see the chain of events that take place from unsustainable structures of business, you won't support those businesses. So
Hmm.
if you could look towards smaller brands, and if we scale, like I would never be able to scale to that size because that doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
It's not a manageable thing. So
Hmm.
like what I explained to you about how we're pivoting in the wake of this, a good friend of mine, Maurizio from Atelier and Repairs, said fundamentally big businesses need to get smaller and smaller businesses need to get bigger so that there's a balance,
Hmm.
instead of like this and this. It needs to just like, there has to be this coexisting vibe. But you know, to see and acknowledge and change your behaviors based on everything we're seeing is one thing, but to be able to do it because of lack of resources, and then what's accessible are the juggernauts that are just like, you know, ruining every system they touch. That's what worries me. So like, do I want, sustainability to be like the thing when we get past this? Sure, but are people gonna have the resources to support brands like mine?
Hmm.
Or are they just gonna have to clothe their families and go and do that in the most economic way possible, regardless of the outcome, because you really just don't have a choice. And that's
Hmm.
a reality that, you know, sucks.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a big question right now is like, obviously we're having a lot of issues economically and we're going to continue to globally because of this. So what does that mean for the smaller brands that are doing things more mindfully, meaning prices will be higher because you care about the people and the processes that you're engaging with.
Exactly. You can't do that. You can't do all the things you just said and then sell a pair of jeans for $50. It just doesn't happen. If you want to
Hmm.
sell a pair of jeans for $50, you need to undercut a lot of people.
Hmm.
So I don't see that in my future.
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah, absolutely. But it is really interesting because if you read right now, and like you mentioned, you were watching all of these kind of webinars and lives earlier on in the pandemic. There's so much conversation within the fashion industry about how on the other side of this, the the sentiment is if you're not doing something sustainably, like you're going to become irrelevant, or you're not going to
become
be like having a
you
sensitivity, like you're going to look bad, I guess.
look, in times of crisis, what's important becomes clear like that. And so, you know, honestly, Triarchy has not had a hard time communicating since this happened at all,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not, we're not pushing things for ego consumption. And a lot of times in fashion, all it is like ego fueling ego. So like, hey, yeah, you want this, right? Yeah, get it. Impulse, 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 buy, 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 buy. And so like when something like this happens, you just instantly hit a wall and go like, God, that's not important. Ugh, like, no, I don't need that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a company like that, you must just be going like, oh, what the hell do we do? Like, how do I sell like gold nipple rings right now? I don't know why that's what came to mind, but like, you know what I mean? It's just like, how do you do that? Like, it's just like, it's so irrelevant. Like, and like, it really like like what is important becomes clear, and you just kind of want to do away with all the bullshit, and you just want like the good stuff, and like, you just want to have the good things, fewer, better, good things, instead of all of the nonsense and the noise and this weird system we've built of like the idolization of brands and celebrities, and you see that world getting a very cold reception lately too. Like,
Hmm.
it's a very fine line for people in the spotlight. You know what I mean? Like, they have to be
Hmm.
very careful, because you do the kind of shit that was like cute 6 months ago, it's really offensive right now. And
Hmm.
so, but what's interesting is that the level of tone deafness has reached such a height that a lot of the times you're not even aware that you're doing what's so offensive on that
Hmm.
end, you know? I'm
Hmm.
trying to structure this in a really non-offensive way right now.
Yeah,
But
but it's true. Like, I think we're hypersensitive, we're like really tuned in because I mean, so many people are, if you have the privilege to be home and to be kind of safe
yes,
in your own space,
which is a
you're,
privilege.
it's a massive privilege.
Yeah.
But then if you're on your phone or you're on your computer or you're on the TV, you're like reading, you're learning, you're trying to see what's going on. And so to be learning about like the like intense realities of this virus, and then to have someone like trying to act all cute and just tell you to buy something,
Oh
it just,
God.
I mean,
Oof, it's the worst. Like, when I see something that's business as usual right now, I'm like, no, bye. I can't, honestly. Like,
mhm.
I mean, I will say I stopped watching the news like 2 weeks ago, because I really got my anxiety in check with meditation and things like years ago. And I was noticing that, like, I'm like, what the hell? What is this palpitation? Like, why can't I sleep? Why am I? And I'm like, oh, you've been watching the news, haven't you? Like, okay, you have the info you need, stop. And then you go to something that you want to comfort you, and you start to see all of this business as usual behavior. And you're like, why is everyone so tone deaf right now? Like, this is so bizarre. Like, you shouldn't be speaking or communicating in this way. Like, it's that
Mhm.
whole thing. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. If you don't have anything constructive to contribute, just right now is a great time to be quiet.
Be silent.
Wonderful time to be quiet. I said the other day, like, it's almost a shame that like the internet isn't shut down during this time too, because I wonder what would like come from that level of silence, but it's probably a bit much. And then we wouldn't be able to speak. So that's,
Right,
but
right. I
yeah.
mean, it is nice to be able to like have a human interaction
Yeah.
through a screen, but some sort of human interaction right now. But I really love that idea of just thinking of what would happen if we were all just completely like in our own mini bubbles.
You know, that thing I was telling you about the ecosystems, like, I was on a hike yesterday, and I really kind of got this thing, and I started going with it. And my thought was like, wow, thank God for this time of silence, and that I'm so lucky that I'm that I'm able to sit in it and
Mm,
like listen to what comes from silence, and then like go with those ideas. And like, it's a, you know, I think no matter how you look at it, like, this will cause a lot of damage, health, finances, whatever, and it will also pass. And there will be a time when a lot of us look back on this time,
hmm.
as what it is. And I just, for me, I'm like, well, right now I'm healthy. I'm figuring out what to do with my business. So I want to look back on this time as one that I just like mastered the shit out of myself. And I'm not even talking about like in an overachieving way. I just mean in like, because the first week was like up at 7, you got to go for a run, and then you have to be in front of your computer by 9, and and I was like, no. Like, I wake up, I do breath work, I meditate, I like try this new vibe and like see what comes, because it's not going to last forever. We'll be back to
Hmm.
the other stuff.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
it
like
definitely made
embracing the
me
slow.
embracing the slow so much, and then also remembering it when like how idiotic my travel schedule used to be, and it's like, does it need to be like this? Do I need to fly across the world to talk about sustainability? That seems a little silly. You know what I mean? Like, just, but we get so caught up in it, and it's my job and it's important and I want to be in that room because I want to network, and that's a big, ego.
Mhm.
It's nonsense.
I really love did you create that ego consumption?
Sure. No. I mean, it's just, I like, the more that I cut out all of those things, the impulse things, the like, I really got to become aware of when it was like ego or not making a
Hmm.
call. And so I just like, it's so obvious to me now when I'm behaving out of ego. So I like to
Hmm.
call it. And so, like, for me to go and like fly around the world to a sustainability summit was my ego saying, you don't want to appear irrelevant. You should be there. This
Hmm.
is this is the field you're in.
You
And
can't
that's,
miss that opportunity.
can't miss that opportunity. But that's how those businesses exist. They are businesses. It's fine. But
Hmm.
it should be digital. And we've just had the proof now that it totally works to be digital. I
Hmm.
I I recorded a panel with Carrie from the Conscious Fashion or from yeah,
Yeah, the
like,
UN, yeah,
yeah,
conscious fashion campaign.
yeah. I literally, you spoke to her the other day.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
last week.
but that's the thing. It's like we just did that, and it was like easy, and here I am, and like done. We didn't have to fly to New York to do that. So, and
And
then what
Brittany
I
is putting this whole conference, Sustainable Fashion
yeah,
Forum, online. It's
right,
digital, launching on the 25th. So it's like,
amazing,
yeah.
awesome.
Hmm. I think I think it's helping us realize the capabilities that we have with the digital space.
But what I was talking to Carrie about, which was like an awesome shift, was like, imagine all of the saved resources from the traveling, and then what will that be applied to?
Hmm.
So like in Denim, what excited me was there are so many companies that are putting ideas into motion, and they're doing like, they're innovating and they're doing all of this incredible stuff to reduce the footprint considerably further with like foam dyeing indigo and all of these things, and they don't have funding. So they have all these awesome ideas, and they're like, oh, we're kind of like, does anyone want to help? And we're all like, wow, we can't. But like, imagine if everyone reduced their travel by 50%, and imagine how much money that is. And then
Hmm.
you all pool together and you pivot and you put it into someone's company like that, and you're all investors and you're all benefiting, and your companies are benefiting, and the planet is benefiting. And it's like, amazing.
Hmm.
Instead of
That,
like flying.
hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting to think about.
I'm gonna be pushing that agenda as hard as I can, because I don't know about fashion as a whole, but I do know that in denim, I really believe that it could become the way.
Hmm.
Like because we are like such an like we're such a thing, you know? Like
Hmm.
what else in fashion is as specific as denim, really?
Right.
Maybe leather, but not even, because
But
leather
it's
isn't
not as
its own
iconic.
thing. Yeah, like denim is its own thing through and
Hmm.
through, from fabric to product. Whereas with leather, it's like everyone can use leather, and it can be anything from a skirt. Like we're talking jeans. So like if we're all doing jeans, let's all get our heads straight. Let's
Hmm.
innovate. Let's fund companies that are doing cool shit, and let's just like dial back on the ego. you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think that you're always like so good at really being mindful about what you're doing. Like not just in a like I'm being conscious and sustainable way, but like you always are thinking like holistically. Like I feel like you're a step ahead often in how you're approaching a business.
I appreciate that. I do sometimes kind of feel like when I have an idea, I'll like then look a bit further and then be like, wait a minute, what's that idea over there? And then like just bring that one forward, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Which is why I love this time and why I'm so grateful for my situation in this time, because I'm able to just fast track that as much as I can. And that's what I'm trying to do, you know?
Hmm. And I think you are able to do this so often, like getting ahead in a sense of like your thought process because you're doing these 90-day stints of like clearing your mind of different things, you know,
Yeah,
of the
I
vices.
maybe wouldn't have done the one I did right now. Maybe not so much that one, but everything happens for a reason, right? And that's what I was supposed to do. So,
In your opinion, what matters most, being ethical or sustainable, good for the environment?
well, this goes back to what I was saying. Like, I think that I think they're quite equal because, like I said, if you are, let's say that you're building an incredible sustainable brand and you're doing all the good things and you're washing sustainably and you're getting the good fabrics and you're biodegradable and all of that, but then the structure of your manufacturing is a disaster to the point where that if you had to cancel stuff, everyone gets pushed back and loses their jobs, then it,
Mm-hmm.
one can't work without the other. It's yin and yang. Like they need to come together to create a whole. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't, and that's why for us, someone asked me like, what's been the hardest part for you? And the hardest part was without question finding the right factory that can not only do what they say they can do in terms of the sustainable production, but also show me that they're taking care of all their people and that everything
Mm-hmm.
is fine. And like when our communication opened, when this happened, I'm like, I know we're not going into production. Do you want me to pay deposits? Like, do you need anything so that we are all taken care of? Not like this happened. I don't know who you are. What? Like new phone.
Mm-hmm.
Who is this? Like, no, you like so it really is both, which is why it's a really big job. You can't just be like, oh, this thing sustainable, yay, and everything else horrible. Like it's just not. It's both
Mm-hmm.
equal
Yeah.
both.
It's like holistically taken care of.
It's a whole thing. You can't
Mm-hmm.
just like put in pieces of the pie and then be like, we did it. It's not how it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, one of the questions when I scrolled back was, can you suggest a starting point for somebody that wants to get into the sustainable fashion industry?
Common objective. The Objective is a really great platform. It's like a LinkedIn for sustainable fashion, and it's a really nice place to go. I actually had a friend who was starting to do something, and I referred him there to look for suppliers and vendors. And it's just an easy way to navigate and see what your options are, asking questions. I feel like when I get questions via that platform, I I answer them, it kind of takes the wall down. You know what I mean? Like with LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of just like everything. Whereas if you're on Common Objective, I know that you've arrived there with good intention, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably your
that's a
best
great
bet,
suggestion.
especially now because you can't leave the house. It's your only option. So there you go.
And it's really global too, I feel like, you know,
Exactly.
don't you feel that it's very like
It's very global. Like
international?
it's not the US. It's not like you can really get a lot of info there. Common Objective. Yeah.
Perfect. Another question from Emilio. Do you think you can have a sustainable brand and make huge profit at the same time?
At the same time, in time. So I do believe that it's a much slower burn, like a much slower burn. It really like it takes time, but I do believe that you can create a very successful brand and make money and have it be sustainable. But you know, the way that these big brands have achieved such quick success is because they don't really do any of the tough things. They just kind of like go for it. We've got the budget, pay the influencers, give celebrities, we did it. And so, you know, you know, with money, it's really easy to do that. If you got a bunch of cash, just go do it. Like before this, it really wasn't hard. You hire the PR, it's a formula. You just go do that thing. But if you want that with integrity and staying power, it's going to take some time,
Mm-hmm.
but it, you know, of course it's doable, especially with things like this that I think will be perspective shifts. And I think that we will be able to pivot into, you know, like getting that loyalty based off of integrity, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. again, it's like the slowing down. It seems like that's part of, you
It's
know,
part of it. It
mhm,
that like this is so, it's so tough when there were some investors we were speaking to, and it was very like venture capital, like cap table, like money, this, that, the other thing, like how quickly this, and it's like, like you just, that's such an antiquated, like that's the reason why our industry is not, that's why our planet is such a cluster, because it's just like everyone's like, where's the profit? And it's like the people that we're working with now, they are like biomimetic investors that are just as interested in our financial P&L as they are with our environmental P&L. So when they are going to people to ask for investment, the people are like, can you show us money in, money out? And can you also show us the benefits of their sustainability practices and what that will look like in 10 years if we incubate their brand?
mhm,
So if we take this chance, if we do this, what will be the environmental savings of the work that they're doing in 10 years? Because that'll make me feel better than like, cool, I made another 10 million bucks. When you're approaching people with $1 billion fund, they don't give a shit about $10 million. And that's why it's refreshing to start see on the investor side, people going like, okay, I think I probably have enough money. So like, what if I just funded a company that was doing cool shit and making a difference? And then in 10 years, I could be like, hey kids, look what we did. Cool. Instead of like, hey kids, here's another boat. Like, it's boring. And that's back to ego.
mhm.
Like, there's always someone with a bigger boat, and whenever you get on the bigger boat, it's still you that's on it. So if you're not like vibing really high in here, I promise there isn't a boat big enough to make you feel whole. So do cool shit instead. It's way more rewarding.
Mhm. That was a good one. If you get on, however big the boat is, it's not going to make a difference.
Still you getting on the boat, so you
Still you.
should probably do that work. 90
Mhm.
days. Start knocking them out.
Start now if you have the opportunity. Let's see here. What processes do you go through to find the right factory?
Oh God. You know, honestly, this is so something that never gets talked about is greenwashing on the manufacturing side. We talk always of greenwashing in, on the consumer side. Like, does this brand really do what they say they're doing, or they just do one hero thing and then the rest of it is all bullshit? And we all know about that, but what I really have experienced is greenwashing on the manufacturing side. So you'll find a place and you'll reach out and you'll discuss and you'll talk about what your parameters are and things, and then you'll send your fabrics and you'll do your samples. And I was in a unique position where I had developed all of our samples with Genealogia in Spain, like at the headquarters where they make the machinery that factories would then buy in order to be sustainable. So that was a big leg up for me because I got to actually like work with those guys and learn about how that stuff works. But what I was also able to do though is when I look at it, you can there's ways in which you can tell if you've used ozone or not and stuff. So then when you get the samples back and you're like, this isn't ozone, like you just washed this, like, but they're like, nobody fucking knows, so we're just gonna send you this and say we did it your way, and it's
Mhm.
all good because then you'll get your sustainable product and we'll save a ton of money because we didn't have to fire up the ozone. And so when you experience that, it's like, and then it's just like you have to go through that a lot to find a right factory, and then just in time you'll get it. It just takes time. You'll
Mhm.
talk to people, you'll get recommendations, and then you will find people that are not, that don't have the equipment, because everyone can have the equipment. You'll find someone that cares as much as you do, and then it's like family. Let's do this. Awesome. And it takes a while. It took a long time, but
Mhm.
everything good takes time, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the plug and play kind of idea, I feel like is in line with that whole like extreme scaling mindset. And it's like you just plug in these things and then you just go up like this.
Yeah.
But it's not building anything that has longevity.
It's just flash in the pan nonsense.
Hmm.
I remember seeing I think we got an email pitch or something from this company that was saying that their specialty was just creating brands for influencers. So like you reach out, you send all the pictures of the things you like, they go knock them off, send them to you with the labels, and I was like, this is a thing? Like, oh, but maybe it won't be a thing post this.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Someone just sent in a question. Do you think to work with Turkey is difficult through sustainability vision?
No. I mean, where I work, no. Maybe I can't speak to Turkey. I just know that we found, the reason I looked to Turkey is because we started using a lot of Italian fabrics. And so for us to ship fabric from Italy to Mexico and then manufacture in Mexico, and then it was just like, that's a big carbon footprint in moving stuff around. So at least just moving fabric by truck from Italy um, to Turkey is a lot closer, and then we make a really good, exceptionally sustainable product in Turkey that I can verify and have like an unshakable level of trust in, which for me is everything. Like that to me is like that's my benchmark. So for me to have that, it's like, fantastic. And a lot of Turkish mills are doing a lot of really great sustainable stuff on the material side. I mean, so
Awesome.
I love Turkey.
Awesome. Is your cotton certified fair trade organic cotton, and have you considered naturally colored organic cotton?
So yeah, we use all BCI organic certified cotton via the mill that makes the fabric because like we don't make the fabrics, right? So the mills like and that's what's nice too. Like when you have this like specific, like when I go to see the fabrics, maybe they'll have a whole showroom of things to look at, but they'll know that I can only look at like this many things. So they'll be like, these are for you, Adam, because you're not going to look at any of the other stuff we have. So they show me all of the organic, the certified, the like um, and then we do now, and that's what I was saying about the dyes. It's difficult because a lot of the time dyeing isn't sustainable. So we don't have that option unless companies are doing something really cool and actually something that I'm bringing to market. I just finished designing Spring 21 last week, and I'm introducing a new fabric that is dyed with something natural, and it's insane. And I'm very, very, very excited about it. I just need a minute before I talk about it. But it's it really makes me happy inside.
Awesome. Awesome. I can't wait. Um, what do you think it will take for the fashion industry to reduce its massive pollution and emissions?
Well, I'd love to answer this question. So, what it will take? It's really simple, super straightforward. I have the answer to sustainability, and it's called mindfulness. Because any agenda that you try to force on like corporate that is dealing with shareholders and stockholders and investors and the machine of money, it's never going to work. You're never going to talk to them. It doesn't matter. You can be as wonderful and show as many, dead penguins as you want. It ain't going to work. And so the thing that will work is individual mindfulness that will change your habits, that will change the way you interact with the companies that you support. If everyone owned their own mindfulness and slowed down and stopped reacting on impulse and started spending less and buying better, everything would shift. That whole voting with your wallet thing, it's really on point. But you can't vote with your wallet if you're not able to take pause before you spend. And so what I do that's, that 10-second rule, like when you want to buy something, you just put it down and just go for a walk. And if it's online, you just go and get a drink from the kitchen and just give it a second. And then you'll probably return and be like, nah, And that's so like, it's so like everything that you want to know about how to change this industry is right here. It's you. It's it. Because if everyone was able to just that pause, just that pause is everything. That pause is everything from like talking to a partner to your family, like everything.
Mhm.
Just wait and you know what I mean? Like we're never going to be able to control what happens in life. We will always be able to control how we react. Our reaction is everything, and that is just as relevant when it comes to spending because you're reacting. Spending is reacting, right? So just I'm not going to do that. And then it'll pivot. And yes, it will
Mhm.
take time and you have to like believe that it will change, but it will.
Mhm.
Clearly, I'm very passionate about this. But like,
But it makes so much sense. And I mean, you put it under this umbrella of mindfulness, and I think maybe other people will interpret it as something different for them.
sure.
But I think it is always just that pause and that slowing down. Like, I mean, it's like often I'll find something that I like and then I'll put it in a cart and then I'll like set my phone down and walk away for a while. And then 9.5 times out of 10, like I don't ever follow through with the
Without
purchase.
fail, always. It's like, I'm good. I'm good.
Mhm.
It's
It was
fine.
like, oh, that was a cool idea. I appreciate the design, but
Yep.
I don't need that.
Right. Exactly. And someone will, and that's
Hmm.
fine. Like it will all find a home, right?
Hmm.
It'll find a home, but it doesn't always have to be your home.
Exactly.
I was guilty of that forever, like going through all this stuff. What is all this stuff? And it's just like, no, no.
So much power in saying no.
Oh, no is the most unselfish thing you can ever say to anybody, by the way. Like, just put yourself first from a place of love, from like a base of love, and then just be like, no, it's not
Hmm.
about you, it's about me. Like, we're all owning our best selves so that we can show up as the best version of ourselves for everybody else. And that's what I said too. What's so awesome about this pause is that if we all spend this time like becoming the best versions of ourselves, then when we all come back together, it's like, oh, hello. Like, miss those hugs. Yeah.
Definitely. Um, okay, we have time for a couple more questions. Do you think COVID-19 will reshape taste in fashion, and how will sustainability fit in?
So I think there's going to be two trains of thought here. I think one for sure, because how could it not? I think that no matter what no matter how you apply this time, you are being forced to slow down. That's no question. So yeah, it'll definitely, it's forcing that pause on you, whether you like it or not. And I do believe that um, that will create a positive change. I also, though, think there will probably be a flip side where people are going to want to get dressed up and go out and be seen and like, you know what I mean? And so I think there could also be quite a jump in like, like give me the
The
goods,
lavish,
the
like, look
lavish,
at
the over
me.
the top, like the look at me. But I also think that like when I think of that, I think like because I love a vintage Versace shirt like more than anybody. You know what I mean? Like from the Gianni days, like the good stuff. But like it also maybe feels a bit in poor taste, a bit like maybe just not like peacock around when this has been like such
Hmm.
a strange and like tough time for everyone.
Hmm.
Like no matter what level in which you're experiencing this, there's going to be like a PTSD factor to this experience for a lot of people.
Hmm.
So I kind of feel like if you re-enter the world from this like organic place of like just that's a nice vibe to share with yourself and everyone else. And then the Versace shirt will have its day again, but not right
Hmm.
now.
Yeah, like easing back in
Easing back
almost.
in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of coming out of hibernation slowly.
Yeah. Well, hey, there you go. You have to come. I don't think that like when a bear wakes from hibernation, it's like day one, you're at the river catching salmon. It's probably like, oh. what's this? It's probably takes some time. Maybe like some
Yeah.
flies before the salmon. I don't know what bears do, but I don't think bears
Blueberries.
catch flies. Blueberries, there you go. Like flies. What am I talking about?
Okay, let's see if we can get one more question in. Um, uh, how do you think, or how do you work to instill sustainable values to new people instead of just giving them a sustainable product?
Thank you for that question because I really find that we we definitely talk less about sustainability now and more about mindfulness. Like on our pocket bags in the jeans, you used to be able to read like water facts, which I still think is wonderful and super interesting, but I also feel like if your industry isn't denim, they might get a bit lost on you, like
Hmm.
because you don't know what you don't know. So in my mind, I kind of quickly pivoted from I like if I was like I don't really need to know the specifics of what you're doing. I just need to know that you're doing it well. So what we share on the pocket is actually the information about mindfulness, and I share a thing about how gratitude has been shown to boost immune function. And so, like, just by expressing gratitude, you can boost your immune function. It makes you feel more mindful. Like, it's really beneficial to just like be like, oh God, I love a good cup of coffee so much, and I'm so grateful that I can have it, and I love it so much, and thank you. And I really mean it because I'm obsessed with coffee. It's like the only thing I have left. But so like, it's important to just get that across the mindfulness because then that will allow you the pause again to open up to caring about the water facts. That's the point. If you don't have the minute to, then the water facts are lost
Mhm.
on you anyway. So it's like, forget it. If you want to go online and read about the water facts, it's fine. But in the product, it's like, we're grateful for you wearing these jeans. So now you think of something you're grateful for and have a lovely day.
Yeah, you have to
Made
slow
sense.
down to
Yeah.
be able to understand and comprehend the details.
And I also thought it felt nice to like have a nice intention on your pocket instead of like a water fact.
Hmm.
I don't know. Feels like a nice vibe.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
also changed the name of the coin pocket on denim because like that's no one actually uses that for what it was intended for. So we call it like that's where I put my Labradorite. So that's a crystal pocket now. So
Love
there you
it.
go. There you
Love
go.
it. I love it. Well, on that note, we're gonna have to jump off, or Instagram will kick us off. So I want to have a nice farewell because it's been so great chatting with you. And
This felt like 5 minutes,
I know
as
it
it
was an
did last
hour.
time. I love you so very much, really.
I
Like it
love
was
you too. You're
really nice talking
amazing.
to you.
I think this was a great way to kind of like break up the day for me, and I hope other people appreciated it because
Likewise.
I feel more relaxed right now. You help me kind of get get slower in my approach right now.
Likewise. Let's do
Well,
this every Monday at 1 o'clock.
let's do it. I love it.